Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is January 5th, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery. Pacific Northwest to the upper right, next system here, pushing on to the Washington, Oregon coast. We'll take a look at those details. We'll take a look at what we're going to be dealing with here over the next couple of weeks as we start to dry things out along the west coast of North America. And then there is a lot of chatter on social media about a potential cooler weather pattern here coming for Western Alaska and some of the Pacific Northwest. We will take a look at the latest on that as we go through the video here today. I get a lot of questions about which weather station should I buy, and the Tempest weather system is probably at the top of the list unless you want to spend thousands of dollars. You can see everybody else here across the region with their station. You can click on these individual locations. You can name the station whatever you want. Stores all the data for you in the cloud. So if you want one of these, click on that link down below to save 10% off. You can just watch the wind update here on the desktop app or your smartphone app. The smartphone app is great. And again, it's got UV index, lightning detection system, and it stores all the data for you in the cloud. So highly recommend that station. Now, if we take a look at Seattle National Weather Service in Portland, you can see we don't have that beach hazard statements. I would just consider that up the Oregon and the Washington, Vancouver Island coastline. Medford does bring attention to this for the risk of sneaker waves, some higher tides out there as well, correlate with some of that activity. And the Bay Area actually has a decent map here also. And you can see they do talk about the long period swell and the interval between some of these waves up and down the west coast of North America. So just a heads up for that as we go on in through the next few days. Now, taking a look at the European on the left, hot off the press is GFS on the right. You can see our next system up here, fairly weak low, mainly moving into Oregon. And you can see the precipitation kind of wrapping up for today for a lot of western Washington and British Columbia. But that precipitation continues through tomorrow morning for a lot of Oregon as that system finally pushes off to the south and east. Then we get another decaying frontal system here as we go through Tuesday night into Wednesday. And then maybe a little bit more of a robust frontal system as we go through Thursday night into Friday morning, but then we kind of dry things out after that. Another very weak system slides here. But you can see we have some pretty good dry periods here as we go on in towards the mid portion of January. Another decaying system there. And then we scroll off into the future to see what is coming next. And you see the GFS bring some Arctic air. That is an Arctic high pressure system. You can see these pressure gradients start to bunch up there across central and northern British Columbia. And you can kind of see that start to sag down across portions of the Rocky Mountains. The European also shows something like that, but you have to go a bit further out. You're at 360 hours now, and you can kind of see that Arctic air on the move across central Alberta, British Columbia, and across the Northwest Territories and Yukon up there as well. So you can see how far out we're looking. This is purely a fantasy forecast, but both models continue to show it in both the ensembles and the control runs, and I'll show you more on that here in a moment. But first things first, I do want to show the 2-week precipitation anomaly. Clearly, we're going to dry things out here. It looks like for much of western BC down through California, pretty sharp cutoff here before you start to go across some areas north of Vancouver Island towards southeast Alaska with above average precipitation. The storm track is going to be pointed north, the Pacific Northwest. GFS, pretty good agreement there also. 16-day precipitation anomaly, sharp cutoff just north of Vancouver Island. So we'll continue to watch that to see if that changes at all and some of these systems make a bit further headway down towards the south. Now, looking at the GFS, so this is 5,000 feet. This is a great way to look at where Arctic air is. And it's got also the streamlines of the wind here. And again, the temperature anomaly at 5,000 feet. But we're going to put this into motion. We're now up towards 100 hours as of right there. And then you can see no Arctic air in sight. We go up towards 160 hours right there. No Arctic air in sight. So you can see how far out we have to go to try to get a hint at this Arctic air. And then finally it starts to make an appearance there across Alberta, British Columbia. And then it sags south down towards some of British Columbia here. And you know, it's not a horrible signal there, but a lot of that is staying east of the Rockies. But it's something worth watching just because, you know, it does show kind of a pattern change and this cooler air getting into Western Canada. If we take a look at the ensemble mean, I'm going to scroll all the way out here. We're over 100. There's 200 hours. We go out towards 300 hours before we finally start to see that Arctic air potentially making an appearance here across Western Canada. So there is no skill at this distance yet, but the models continue to show it. So you know, there's probably something to it, but we're just going to have to continue to wait and see. And, you know, this whole thing, the rug could be pulled from underneath this here at any time. So we're just kind of watching, waiting, and seeing at this point. If we take a look at the ensemble mean European 12 12Z on the left versus yesterday afternoon's on the right. So again, this is the average of all 50 ensemble members. Again, we're looking at 5,000 feet up in the atmosphere. It does a great job at showing you where this Arctic air is. You can kind of see the Rocky Mountains there across eastern British Columbia and into Alberta. A terrain feature here that kind of stores up likes to keep Arctic air from making its way into the Pacific Northwest a lot of times. But as we go off towards hour 3:48 there, you can kind of see how the 12Z backed off a little bit on some of this cold air across Western Canada, but at least the signal is still there. However, it's not as strong as what was showing yesterday afternoon. But again, this could be flipping and flopping back and forth for some time now. And taking a look across some of the Western Pacific tropics, this is all the way out on January 19th. This is spaghetti plot. 30,000 feet, 300 millibars. That's the jet stream there. I'd like to see this a bit more retracted here so we can get a little bit better ridging out over the Pacific Ocean. So we'll be watching things like this. We'll be watching the Matt and Julian oscillation. We'll be looking at the La Nina and how the atmosphere is coupling with La Nina as well. We are technically, it looks like we are in a weak La Nina right now. The atmosphere is kind of responding and such, but we'll continue to watch things like this as we go on in through the next few days as well. And this is the Southern Oscillation Index. So when we're in positive, that's the atmosphere. It tends to be mimicking a La Nina a little bit here. But you can see, the 30-day average has been dropping off, but it's still in positive right now. And the daily contributions just started to come back up here. So we'll see if we get a bounce back on that. But it is mimicking a weak La Nina right now. And if we take a look, I just want to point this out that, we're looking, all the way out towards January 17th and 18th here, and we're not looking at much in the way of any kind of wind event. This is Quileute Airport. This is Astoria, virtually nothing all the way off through the 2-week period. And just a heads up here for the avalanche forecast by zone. We got considerable across some of the Cascades. You can see Mount Hood is there as well. So check it before you go off in the backcountry. Lots of good information there. And also the snowpack is doing pretty well. You can see a lot of Oregon is above average. I wouldn't worry about the coastal one. I think that's only one station. But you can see, some of the Puget Sound here. Some of these areas are a little below normal here. But overall, a lot of Idaho, western Montana, Washington, we are at or above normal snowpack for this time of year. So thumbs up for that. This is the 6 to 10 day. 6 to 10 day precipitation. There's the 8 to 14 day. And I mean, we're not even starting to look at the Climate Prediction Center 8 to 14 day showing that cooler weather just yet. So we got a long ways to go on that extended forecast. So, I wouldn't get too excited about it just yet, even though you're going to hear people chirping about it for, the next however long it continues to show in the weather models. Now, if we take a look at the weekly, so this is, again, 5,000 feet. This goes out 46 days. So here we go through the end of January, and you can, again, see that signal. That's what you like to see. That's a start. So some cooler air showing up across Western Canada there as we scroll on in through, we're going through the end of January right here, and then we scroll on into the early portion of February. Maybe we'll get, some kind of cooler air down into the Pacific Northwest. And it would be very unusual that we would not at least get a pass of some cold air at some point as we go through, potentially the end of January and on in through February. It will make some kind of a pass here, but will it be, anything of the sort that would bring a lower elevation snowfall west of the mountains into southwest BC, western Washington, western Oregon? That is still yet to be determined. And now if we take a look at the CFS daily, I'm just going to scroll through this here as well, and we go towards the end of January, and you can kind of see it does show that as well. Pretty impressive Arctic air there also. So, but heck, you're looking 3 weeks out, so take that with a grain of salt, of course. And if we look at the Pacific North American Oscillation, the European ensemble does show us dipping down with some troughing closer or across the Pacific Northwest here. So the signals aren't bad. They are there. This is just so far out that you really got to be patient. And this is just for entertainment purposes only. This is the weeklies, has 100 ensemble members. This is total snow, 10-to-1 ratio. And you can see the control run wants to bring Bellingham 20 inches of snow by the time you go towards February 1st. And the mean is not bad either. And you can see each individual one has at least a little bit of snowfall, and some of them much more for Bellingham. So just kind of entertainment purposes only. You can see the control run by February 1st being a couple inches to Seattle. And then you can see the variation through each individual ensemble member run there. And Portland, not too bad there as well. But these are just entertainment only. Just kind of showing you guys here, giving you a little treat if you stuck around this far towards the end of the video. And now something as we look out 46 days, you can kind of see the control run here is in the blue line. Doesn't really really show things getting too cold. So yeah, we got a lot of work to do here and a lot to watch before we start to get too excited about any kind of cold air outbreak into the Pacific Northwest. This is some of the interior portions of British Columbia here as well. You see the control run does show up getting pretty cool for a time, but again, you can see it just bouncing around all over the place. No great signal. Yeah, so we are on the way to 100,000, hopefully. I mean, maybe if this Arctic air does verify or gets a bit closer here as we go on and through the end of January and through February, I imagine we might hit 100,000 at some point this season, even before springtime gets to us. So anyway, again, channel is not possible without you guys. Thanks to my contributing members. If you want to click that join button down below, it's a way to help support the channel. And again, yeah, none of this is possible without you guys. Much appreciated. So what else? I guess we will just continue to watch that extended forecast. We'll see if anything changes in the shorter range forecast, because you saw the precipitation deficit setting up here. So it's going to eat away at our snowpack. Most likely, we'll continue to watch that snow water equivalent across some of the higher terrain in the mountains. And yeah, we'll break it down day by day. Hope you guys are having a good day otherwise, and I will talk to you tomorrow.